Elena Carter sat at the far end of the long, gleaming conference table, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The executives before her, Victor Langley, Simon Caldwell, Natalie Harrington, and Lillian Draper, laughed amongst themselves, blissfully, unaware of the storm that was about to tear their world apart. For 2 weeks, Elena had walked these halls in the shadows. Not as the incoming CEO, but as Janet, a nameless cleaning worker with aching feet and an overlooked existence. She had seen it all. The callous indifference, the exploitation, the whispered cruelty from those who saw people like her as nothing more than invisible hands tidying up their mess. And now, it was time for reckoning. The tension in the room thickened as she rose to her feet. "Before we begin," she said, her voice calm but laced with steel, "I have something to say." She placed a folder on the table. Several pages slid out, printed emails, financial records, HR complaints that had mysteriously disappeared. Gasps and hurried glances shot across the room as the executives realized what they were looking at. Elena's gaze locked onto Victor Langley, the company's COO. "You personally authorized the suppression of harassment claims, signing off on settlements that forced victims into silence." Victor's smirk faltered. He glanced at Simon Caldwell, but the CFO was already flipping through his own damning evidence, his face pale. Elena turned to Natalie Harrington and Lillian Draper. "And you two manipulated vendor contracts, overcharging the company by millions, while funneling money into personal accounts. You stole from the very people who built this company." The room erupted in chaos. "This is outrageous," Victor barked, slamming a fist on the table. "You have no proof." Elena lifted a single sheet of paper. "This is your signature, Victor." Silence. Security personnel entered the room, their presence a silent confirmation of what was happening. One by one, the disgraced executives were led away, their protests fading into the background. The empire of power they had built had crumbled in an instant. As the doors shut behind them, a different kind of silence filled the room, not of corruption and fear, but of possibility. Elena turned to the rest of the leadership team. "This is not just about removing bad actors," she said. "It's about changing the culture of this company." She thought about Isabel Reyes, the cleaner who had spent 10 years in the company but had never been given a chance to advance. She thought about Marcus Bennett, the maintenance worker whose ideas for efficiency had been laughed off simply because of his job title. Not anymore. Elena took her seat, not at the far end of the table, but at its head. A new era had begun. As the dust settled from the fallout of corruption at Williams Innovations, Elena Carter knew the real work was only beginning. Removing the toxic leadership had been necessary, but it was just the first step. If the company was truly going to change, the people who had been overlooked, silenced, and cast aside needed to be empowered. She thought of Isabel Reyes, the cleaner who had worked tirelessly for a decade without recognition. She thought of Marcus Bennett, the maintenance worker who had been dismissed when he suggested cost-saving, efficiency improvements. They and so many others deserved more than just survival. They deserved a future. Standing before a packed auditorium of employees, Elena spoke with conviction. "For too long, this company has thrived on the backs of hardworking people while rewarding only a select few. That ends today." She outlined a bold initiative, one that would open doors that had been shut for years. First, a mentorship program. Entry-level employees, from janitorial staff to administrative assistants, would be paired with senior executives who could provide guidance, networking opportunities, and career advancement support. Second, an education reimbursement program. Whether an employee wanted to earn a degree, obtain a professional certification, or take specialized training, the company would invest in them. Finally, a transparent promotion system. No longer would advancement be dictated by favoritism. Promotions would be based on merit, dedication, and potential, regardless of job title. The room erupted in applause, but Elena wasn't done. "Let me be clear," she said, her voice firm. "This is not just an announcement. It is a promise, and I will personally ensure it is fulfilled. Over the next several months, Williams Innovations began to transform. Employees who had once felt invisible now had a voice. Isabel Reyes, with years of first-hand knowledge of the company's operations, was promoted to a logistics coordinator. Marcus Bennett used the tuition reimbursement program to earn an HVAC certification and became a lead technician, training others in the process. The impact was undeniable. Productivity soared. Turnover rates plummeted. Employee satisfaction reached record highs. But more than that, a culture of hope replaced a culture of fear. Elena had set out to dismantle corruption, but in its place, she had built something even stronger. A company where everyone, no matter their role, had the chance to thrive. The transformation at Williams Innovations was undeniable, but as the company moved forward, a stark truth remained. Opportunity meant nothing if employees weren't compensated fairly. Elena Carter had opened doors, but now she had to level the playing field. As she reviewed the company's financial reports, one glaring issue stood out: a massive pay disparity between executives and lower-level employees. Senior leadership had been raking in lavish bonuses, while the very people who kept the company running struggled to make ends meet. She called a meeting with Victor Langley, the new CFO. "We need a full audit of salaries, bonuses, and benefits, top to bottom," she said. "And I want a plan for how we fix it." Victor hesitated. "Adjusting executive pay will cause pushback. We might lose some of our top people." Elena's gaze was unwavering. Then they were never the right people to begin with. The audit results were staggering. Some executives were making 10 times the salary of mid-level managers. Lower-level employees received barely livable wages. Benefits were skewed toward senior staff, leaving the majority of employees with minimal health care, no parental leave, and zero financial security. It was unacceptable. Elena launched a bold restructuring of the company's compensation model. Wages for lower-level employees were increased, ensuring a livable salary across all departments. A profit-sharing program was introduced, allowing employees at all levels to share in the company's success. Paid parental leave, mental health support, and flexible work arrangements became standard benefits. Executive bonuses were restructured, shifting from guaranteed payouts to performance-based incentives tied to ethical leadership and company culture. The backlash was swift. Some executives resigned, unwilling to accept reduced perks. Investors expressed concerns over short-term financial losses, but Elena refused to waver. Then, something unexpected happened. Employees rallied behind her vision. The company saw record-breaking productivity as morale skyrocketed. Investors who had been wary now saw the long-term potential. Williams Innovations became a model for ethical corporate leadership, and most importantly, employees like Natalie Harrington, a single mother in customer support, could finally afford childcare. Lillian Draper, an office administrator, no longer had to work a second job. Marcus Bennett, now a lead technician, was saving for his first home. The message was clear. When a company invests in its people invest in the company. And, under Elena's leadership, Williams Innovations wasn't just thriving, it was setting a new standard for the industry. With fair wages and equitable benefits now in place, Elena Carter turned her attention to another deep-rooted issue at Williams Innovations: the toxic culture that had once been allowed to fester. It wasn't enough to pay people fairly. They had to feel safe, respected, and empowered in their workplace. For years, employees had suffered in silence under bullying managers, unchecked favoritism, and a lack of accountability. The old leadership had looked the other way, allowing certain individuals to wield power through fear and intimidation. That era was over. Elena began by establishing a new code of conduct, one that wasn't just a formality, but a contract of values every employee, from interns to executives, was expected to uphold. Respect, integrity, and accountability weren't just buzzwords. They were non-negotiable. To ensure these weren't just empty promises, she implemented a 3-part strategy: a confidential reporting system. Employees could now report misconduct anonymously without fear of retaliation. Zero-tolerance policy for workplace abuse. Any leader caught engaging in harassment, discrimination, or unethical behavior would face immediate consequences. A culture of transparency, quarterly town halls, and internal reports would track progress and hold leadership accountable. The first test came sooner than expected. Reports surfaced about a longtime senior manager known for berating employees and sabotaging careers. In the past, complaints against him had been buried, but not this time. Elena acted swiftly. After a full investigation, the manager was terminated. The decision sent shockwaves through the company. Some doubted her resolve, but when another executive, who had fostered a toxic culture of exclusion, was forced to resign, the message was clear. Williams Innovations would no longer tolerate abuse of power. For employees like Isabel Reyes, who had endured years of disrespect while working tirelessly behind the scenes, it was the first time she truly felt seen and valued. For Natalie Harrington, who had once hesitated to speak up, it was a sign that her voice mattered. As word spread, something remarkable happened. Employees no longer feared leadership. They trusted it. The workplace became a space where ideas flowed freely, teams collaborated without fear, and people lifted each other up instead of tearing each other down. Elena had done more than fix a company. She had rebuilt its soul. With a culture of accountability firmly in place, Elena Carter turned her focus to another systemic issue within Williams Innovations: the lack of upward mobility for lower-level employees. For too long, talented individuals had been trapped in the same roles for years, overlooked for promotions simply because of their starting position. This was particularly evident with employees like Isabel Reyes, who had spent over a decade as a cleaner without a single opportunity to advance, or Marcus Bennett, a maintenance worker whose natural aptitude for problem-solving had never been formally recognized. Their stories weren't unique. They were the norm. Elena knew that potential wasn't determined by a job title, and she was determined to level the playing field. She launched 2 groundbreaking initiatives to break down the barriers that had kept lower-level employees from rising. A mentorship program. Every entry-level employee was paired with a senior leader who would provide guidance, training, and career development support. A tuition reimbursement and skills development fund. Employees could now pursue certifications, college courses, and technical training with full financial support from the company. To ensure real change, Elena personally reviewed internal hiring policies, eliminating outdated requirements that had made it nearly impossible for lower-level employees to apply for higher positions. She restructured the promotion process, shifting the focus from background and education to skills, performance, and dedication. Within months, the impact was undeniable. Isabel Reyes enrolled in leadership training, and for the first time in her career, she was being considered for a supervisory role in facilities management. Marcus Bennett used the tuition program to earn a certification in HVAC repair, qualifying him for a more specialized and higher-paying position. Stories like theirs ignited a wave of ambition throughout the company. Employees who had once felt invisible now had a path forward. The energy in the workplace shifted. People weren't just working to get through the day, they were working towards something bigger. Of course, not everyone embraced these changes. Some executives resisted, believing promotions should remain exclusive to those with traditional business backgrounds. But when Elena stood her ground, proving that diversity and experience led to stronger teams and better ideas, even the skeptics had no choice but to acknowledge the results. The message was clear. At Williams Innovations, talent would never go unnoticed again.